what just happened? Alex Pereira has just lost the light heavyweight title at UFC 313 at the hands of Magomed Ankalaev. And we were wrong, so let's talk about it.
Yeah, honestly, this was wild. Going into this fight, we thought Alex Pereira would knock him out. Alex Pereira would find that shot because we thought this would be a striking battle. And what do you know? Pretty much, for the most part, it was. It was pretty much Ankalaev on the feet, looking for the straight left, looking to time the inside low kick of Alex Pereira to find the shot and hurt him, which he did in moments, which we'll get to later. But Alex Pereira never really got out of second gear in this fight. He never really upped the tune or really let his hands go. He was leg kicking at range, especially early on, and he seemed hesitant. He seemed a bit too patient. And now, was that down to the fact that Ankalaev is in front of him and now he's in there with a much better opponent and opposition than he's been in previously? I tend to think so. It's the threat of the takedown. Obviously, Ankalaev was mixing that in a little bit, and Ankalaev was just controlling the center of the octagon the entire fight.
Yeah, to his credit, Ankalaev did very well in this fight. Was the aggressor the entire time, pushing back Alex Pereira against the cage, and was able to use level changes, able to use feints to always keep Alex unsure, guessing what he's gonna do, mixing it in with the wrestling, keeping him against the cage. And for Alex Pereira, it just looked like he was extremely gun shy, was very limited with his boxing, which typically is one of his greatest attributes. And this hesitancy was really leading him to getting caught by Ankalaev, in which we saw him rock Alex Pereira in the second round. And this fight was just a very different performance from the outstanding masterclasses we've seen Alex Pereira put on in his title reign, in which typically he's the aggressor, backing down, using combinations, using his extraordinary kickboxing with his incredible counter punching. But this fight was completely different. He was using the leg kicks very heavily. Of course, it was very effective from Jan Blachowicz against Ankalaev, so he was utilizing that. Of course, it's one of his greatest attributes as well. But I feel like it was just too much. He was using way too many leg kicks, was not mixing in with his boxing. Even when he found success, like that head kick in round 5, I believe, he just didn't pursue it, didn't go after it. So a lot of what lost him this fight was just not being too aggressive or too confident, it seemed, with his striking.
Yeah, Ankalaev out of southpaw was actually pretty tricky. Like the hand fades, the lead hand was always twitching. He was doing a good job of actually stabbing Alex with front kicks and teeps to the body, which were sending Alex back pretty heavily. A couple times we saw that in this fight, and Alex really just didn't get started. When he was on the front foot, he didn't really open up. When he wasn't on the front foot, he would just throw leg kicks, and it was just a very patient performance. We're not trying to rip at Alex Pereira like this fight wasn't close, because actually it was pretty close. And Ankalaev, yes, he had more clear rounds, like rocking Alex in the second round and controlling him for a majority of the fourth round with the wrestling. But in those other 3 rounds, they were fairly competitive. I feel like Alex had a little bit less clear rounds. Ankalaev had 2 and 4 pretty much locked in. So 1, 3, and 5 could maybe be up for debate. I thought Alex took the first round, maybe took the third round, and it was 2-2 going to that last round. And Ankalaev seemed to do a little bit better besides that head kick from Alex Pereira, as you mentioned. That was his big moment. It looked like he rocked Ankalaev. Ankalaev was on the back foot, pretty much just backing up in a straight line. Alex chased him but didn't throw. Again, it's very not like him, and it's not your vintage Alex Pereira performance, but you also got to remember that he's in there with a little bit more dangerous of a guy than you usually see. Ankalaev has put guys lights out, and Ankalaev is a very well-rounded fighter, the most well-rounded guy he's probably faced at light heavyweight, up there with probably Jan Blachowicz. But Ankalaev actually surprised me with his leg kicks. He was actually doing a good job of checking leg kicks from Alex and giving some of his own too.
Yeah, most definitely. And if it seems like we're critiquing a lot of Alex Pereira, it's mainly just because this was just such a different performance and approach than we typically see from him. But to his credit, what we did see was a huge improvement in wrestling defense and his overall grappling. Every single takedown that Ankalaev attempted was defended by Alex Pereira, and he did an incredible job to make sure he kept on the feet, to make sure he wouldn't get controlled on the ground. So we definitely did see big improvements there, but it's just unfortunate he wasn't able to mix it up with his stand-up too, because he did such a good job defending all the takedowns for Ankalaev, and I'm sure a lot of people expected Ankalaev to have at least taken him down a couple of times during this fight. But at the end of the day, it was still very close. Personally, I thought it could have gone either way, and it's not like Alex Pereira got completely washed out in that fight.
Yeah, it's kind of just like an abrupt end to the run that Alex Pereira was on. Bruce Buffer introduced him in this fight as the one, the only, and obviously he seemed to be a huge star for the UFC. really in the making, at least. Like, he had a lot of fans, a lot of hype, a lot of people saw the potential, and this guy was knocking everyone out left and right. But Ankalaev just did a great job imposing his game plan, the pressure on the front foot, constantly clinch knees. Alex really wasn't able to land his signature left hook. That's what he's knocked out a lot of guys with in the UFC. Sean Strickland, Jamal Hill, at least that's what got him to that finish in the end. Yuri Prohaska as well, even Israel Adesanya, pretty much everyone besides maybe Khalil Rountree, where he just jabbed his face off. Even the jabs weren't really there for Alex Pereira, and it definitely wasn't a vintage Alex performance, but you gotta think that's because of the opposition that was in front of him. Magomed Ankalaev is a serious contender and actually a serious champion, because he is the new champion now at the light heavyweight division, and a lot of people are not gonna like that, say this is boring, say that he isn't gonna be an exciting champion, and I get it, but at the same time, Ankalaev was trying to push the pace, he was trying to push the action. There were a couple rounds where he would just hold Alex against the fence and he wouldn't get any takedowns, so he was kind of imposing his inner Mario Batista a little bit, but other than that, he was actually landing the better shots than even Alex Pereira on the feet. So I don't think you can give him too much slack in that department. He is on the front foot, but he does negate a lot of what his opponents do, and he did that to Alex Pereira this night.
And you gotta think what's next for both of these guys. Dana White announced in the post-fight press conference saying it's highly likely we see a rematch between the two. And of course it makes sense, as Alex Pereira has been a dominant champion and has had multiple title defenses, and that's typically what happens when a dominant champion loses. They get the immediate rematch. But it's gonna be interesting to see what things these guys can adjust in their game plan. I think Ankalaev had a very good game plan. He fought a perfect fight for him, honestly, going against a dangerous guy in Pereira. So I'd say it's more of a question of what Pereira will be able to adjust. And I think it definitely have to be with a lot of his hesitancy, moving backwards way too much during the fight. He did give Ankalaev a lot of respect throughout the entire fight, and I think additionally because of the feint and because of the takedown threat, he wasn't too willing to just engage and risk getting taken down or risk getting hurt. So of course that's also credit to Ankalaev and his game plan and what he implemented, but there are definitely things that Pereira is able to change in the rematch that can bring him way more success. Just like when he hurt him with the head kick, him being able to follow up instead of moving backwards like he did the rest of the fight. There's little things here and there that can definitely be changed, and it's definitely going to be a question to see if he can win the rematch.
Yeah, I definitely know what's not next for Alex Pereira, and that is kind of overlooking his future opponents. Leading up to this fight against Magomed Ankalaev, he was talking about, oh, I want to have a boxing match against Alexander Usyk, I want to fight for the heavyweight title in boxing. Like, we saw tonight why that would never even be close, not even be fair, not even be competitive. We did a video on that in the past, but now we know that for certain. A southpaw with a lot of feints, a lot of movement, who's very tricky, would obviously give him a lot of problems, and let alone the greatest boxer alive in the world, pound for pound, Usyk. So it's back to the drawing board for Pereira. He still is at the top of the division. He's obviously the #1 contender considering his run. Who are you going to put ahead of him? Yuri Prohaska? Like, no. Alex beat him twice. Alex beat Jamal Hill. Alex beat Khalil Rountree. There's no other fight really to make other than the rematch, which I feel like will definitely be big. Now that Alex is lost, there's this jeopardy. Maybe it won't be as exciting because the first fight wasn't fireworks necessarily, but this is a very high level matchup between two of the top guys at light heavyweight, two of the best guys in the world. So I'd like to see it. I'd like to see them run it back. It was a close fight at the end of the day. Could have really gone either way, but this is Magomed Ankalaev's moment. He gets the belt, and he did it against the odds. He was actually the underdog leading into this fight. He started as a favorite, but then as the line closed, he became the underdog and ended up taking the belt. So it's going to be interesting to see what they do next. I'd like to see the rematch, but let us know your thoughts in the comments down below on this fight and this performance at UFC 313. But if you guys enjoyed the video, be sure to leave a like, subscribe, and check out the video on screen on why Volkanovski versus Diego Lopez will not end well.